took the mask and then I ended up putting it back. Perfect. That's Empire, yes.
Nowadays, if your cell phone like mine happens also to be your camera, but don't turn it off for heaven's sake, take some pictures. Just put the phone on vibrate or stun, or whatever keeps it quiet the next 2.5 hours. It's not likely anybody came on board this vessel to hear the details and that doesn't last. Calls under operation.
Lovely. That picture going on. Everything is going on. I have seen only lovely. Everybody. Where are you?
In New York City, there's nothing wrong with those folks, so please treat it as it is, what it is. We got people moving about with beverages and so on, so no running, no horseplay, and don't stand on a chair. They tend to bump over backwards. Thank you, Lucy. I couldn't have said it better myself. If you haven't noticed the back of the boat for removing, you'll get up. First, we have to back up. We're about to do that.
Niti ba mwen lo la mvo konen la nap deplase la koun ya la all right my dear bam kito all right pasu bon aboniti bye bye she came and said come in there
If you didn't hold your ears, we'll ask him to blow it again. All right, we're underway. Here we are backing off away from the pier on the North River. Yeah, I know, your map, and I see folks with maps. Your map says Hudson. Anytime you're on a boat, right now you're on a boat, this is the North River. Our captain, ocean liner captains, tugboat captains, they do not agree on much. They do agree this is the North River. Why? Well, it's what Henry Hudson called it. He got here first. Good enough for him, good enough for us. So here we are, backing out on the North River. First thing you're going to see on the cruise is the last thing you're going to see on the cruise, and that's something you don't see too often in Indiana. We got folks on here from Indiana. What would that be? That would be an aircraft carrier. There's one, right away, left side, number 11. If you get an aircraft carrier to South The bow front of the boat is open for standing. Because we do open the front of the boat for standing, there is no standing room on the second deck. If you stand upstairs, you're going to block everyone else's view. Room not necessary. So if you want to stand for a while, take some pictures, the best place downstairs from the boat. Please do not stand in those windows and the inside cabinets. If you do that, nobody else can see. Only takes 2 people to block the view of 22. Then came the Dutch to give us Brooklyn, Hoboken, and Cody Island. Then came the English to name everything else. Why, it just might be that instead of a city that never sleeps, you're from a place where the all-night restaurant closes at 4 in the afternoon. It can be a bit overwhelming, but don't let Manhattan intimidate you. Think to the island to our left is nothing more than a bunch of towns and villages compacted together onto an island barely 13 miles long by just 2.5 miles wide. We don't call them towns or villages any longer, we call them neighborhoods, but villages, well, that's what they were. The people who live here, for all their supposed good enough, and you never go south, you go uptown or you go downtown. While you're in town, if you ask directions and the fellow says go 3 blocks north, very politely go ask somebody else, he's not from here, he wouldn't say that. 3 blocks north would be 3 blocks up, down, 3 blocks south, 3 blocks downtown. Why you go downtown on this island, you'll never get there. You see, here it's not a place, it's a direction. You go there, but you never get there. Right now, the bunch of us are going downtown. Yep, but we won't get there. But you know what? We can look there and they can't stop us. Let's do it. Left side of the boat, look all the way down towards the end of the island, pretty much as far as you can see. Well, together, a cluster of tall buildings so tall and so close, they form canyons. Canyons have become quite dark and deserted at nightfall. A perfect spot for a creature of the night such as Batman. Here on your left is Gotham City. It is also the financial capital of the world. Every business day, Monday through Friday, 1 out of 4 financial transactions recorded on the planet take place in these canyons of Gotham City. Well, by now, you picked out the tallest building down here. How could you miss it? It's almost twice as tall as anything else in Gotham City. That is World Trade Center number 1, what folks in my neighborhood still call the Sky Pod. It's not an elevator, it's a sky pod. They send you straight to the top, no stops, just 40 seconds. Whoop, you go. 2 minutes later, your stomach arrives. Well, then what? Well, from there on a clear day like this one, oh, this is gorgeous, don't you think? From there on a clear day, they say that you can see forever. Actually, it's about 50 miles on even the best of days. But it's quite a view. Oh, Hudson River. Now behind us, we'll dive under the ocean now ahead of us and marks our entry into the legendary Golden Door. Through this harbor, gift of a glacier that melted 20,000 years ago, we would funnel the largest mass migration in history. Let's do this together one step at a time. The story unfolds quite nicely in these last 2 miles from the statue, and like the country itself, it will unfold to the west. That would be the right side. That would be the clock side. So turn your head clockwise. We'll start with the building just coming up on the right. Up ahead, out in the harbor, a red brick building with a steeple, a white tent, and a flag. Now that building today is a visitor center in Liberty State Park in New Jersey. Exit 14 feet off the turnpike for you locals. But it opens in 1889 as a railroad station, designed to accommodate newly arrived, fresh off the boat immigrants, people processed into America through the great seaport of New York. Now, those days, if you have been approved for entry and if you are not going to stay in New York City, 1 out of 3 newcomers stayed right in town. But what about the other 2/3? Well, they were going someplace else. Mostly they were going west. If you went west in those days, you went west by train. You had few other choices. You could choose from many railroad stations. The waterfront was lined with them. We just passed one. But very likely you chose this one, the building with the steeple up on top. More newcomers climbed on board a train here than all the other railroad stations combined. Over 10. Dead ahead, straight ahead, the rolling hills of Staten Island, small to the 5 boroughs that make up New York City. Yeah, there are no people in those rolling hills of Staten Island straight ahead. Phillips, Seattle, and overflows St. Louis. Connecting Staten Island to the rest of New York City, that long, sweeping bridge in the distance, the Verrazano's Melrose Bridge. Beyond that bridge, the tempest, the stormy Atlantic. Now, if you're on the front of the boat, the bow, stay there. Don't go anywhere. We're going to make a U-turn. When we straighten out as U-turn, in front of us will come something quite extraordinary. A panorama you will not see anywhere else. Here it comes. The richest, most powerful, freest of all cities. If we were to turn this circle lamp post into a time travel machine, we couldn't take you back anywhere, anytime, any place, and that's what's about to be in front of you. No Pharaoh, no emperor, no Caesar, no king, no Sultan. Never dreamed any dream that matches for wealth and power. And built on the likes of any more and you and I. So, pictures of the statue feel sure that's why we're here. But you get a picture of the skyline and do it from here. But you will not see the lights below. It's not your cup of tea. You do indeed prefer small towns living trees in the streets, village streets, country lanes, quaint little churches, and neighborhood schools. Is that what floats your boat? Well, we have a deal for you. Now take a quick glance over to the right side on this approaching Governor's Island. Now, not the big ocean liner, that's the cruise ship actually, it's the Caribbean Princess. But the island between us and that cruise ship, Governor's Island, a 172-acre island, some of it landfill with the subways and everything I just listed. Trees, shaded streets, village greens, country lanes, quaint little churches, and neighborhood schools, it's all right there. That's the small town living barely 5 minutes down ferry boat from the world's most exciting city. Here truly Mayberry meets Metropolis. Who can ask for anything more? Well, maybe so, but there are probably more people on that cruise ship right now than on the island. Today, Governor's Island is a city park. It's open this time of year, 7 till 6, long on the weekend. What are you going to do when you get there? We have to ride a ferry boat. And when you get there, that big green mound is a water slide. Very popular this last week with the temperature in the 90s. And coming up on the right, an old fort called Castle William, built in 1810 in anticipation of the War of 1812. Fort's open to the public. You can visit the fort. Inside, they will have people to explain what's going on. Now, the fort was never used. It turns out the Royal Navy never made it quite this far north, and as a consequence, the lads of the old fort, Castle William, never got a chance to fire their cannons. They ain't got but one, and they never got a chance to fire. It's about to be pointed right at us. I wouldn't worry. They have never fired a cannon at anybody. Once we get by that fort, we intend to take you, yes, you, on a sea cruise, an ocean voyage. I know, wait a minute, said you. We didn't come on board here for no sea cruise. We only had 2.5 hours and we didn't bring any clothes for dinner. Not to worry, we'll have you back on time. And you're going to what's going on when you go to dinner. Going to look great. So, how are we going to do a sea cruise? Well, once we're past the fort, we're in the East River. You might as well know from the start, East River is a bank. It is no more a river than a watch you just bought from that street vendor in a Rolex. Yeah, the one with the 2 L's in it. East River is a tidal strait, a 14-mile-long arm of the sea. As such, we now commence to take you on a sea cruise. I wouldn't hold out too much hope for the midnight boat back. Well, what's it good for, this big river coming up? Right now we're using it to split Manhattan on the left from Brooklyn, which now approaches on your right. And don't you dare ignore Staten Island. Everyone else does. But you can hardly ignore Brooklyn coming up on the right side, because if Brooklyn were a separate city, and it used to be, it would today be the 4th largest in America. A rival to Chicago, hard on the heels of the busy city. But since consolidation in 1898, an act of the state legislature, a shotgun wedding, you might say, Brooklyn has been nearly modified for rows, counties, you might say, to make up New York City, 5, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island. Brooklyn brought the most to the table. Even today, 1 out of 3 New Yorkers live in Brooklyn. They work in Manhattan, but they go home to Brooklyn. It also brought some resentment. Many people in Brooklyn did not care for consolidation, that shotgun wedding forced upon them, and for many years after, old-timers went about calling consolidation the great mistake of 98. We should never have joined. Well, they're gone. And nobody alive today remembers when Brooklyn was in fact a separate city. And it would have happened anyway. You know, now that I think of it, it had already happened. So you see, in 15 years before consolidation merely made it legal, they would marry New York and Brooklyn together for all time in a far more lasting, even intimate fashion. They did it when they continued working the bridge that ahead, that first bridge, that Brooklyn Bridge. Get your travelers, go downstairs onto the bow, and get a picture of the Brooklyn Bridge. Because of all the things you see on this cruise, all these world-famous landmarks, it just might be the bridge coming up is the most impressive thing you're going to see. You say, well, now, how could that be? It's a fine-looking bridge for sure. But what's so special about it? It just seems to fit in. Yes, it does now. And you could easily fall into a trap. Believe that the Brooklyn Bridge was built to fit the scale of this most heroic of cities. But you know what? You would have it backwards. It's the other way around. The city was built to fit the scale of this most heroic of bridges. They started work on the Brooklyn Bridge in 1869. There is nothing around here more than 4 stories high. In that year, you could, if you wanted to, take a train from New York to San Francisco, 2,610 miles across an entire continent. You could not take a train from one side of this so-called East River to the other. It's not even a mile. Well, come downstairs, see for yourselves. But there are no bridges. And experts are possible. Well, the experts are gone. The bridge is still there. Come downstairs, see for yourselves. It's been there for 139 years. It'll be there a lot longer. Engineers have inspected the bridge, wrapped it, tapped it, x-rayed it, sent divers down to the bottom to check the findings, and have it down to the code of paint. The bridge will last another century, and then they'll take another look at it. So a bridge was put complete with the greatest piece of engineering since the pyramids. This is downtown Singapore. When that happens, something else does. We wouldn't be here. Why did it come so often? Well, cynics have described Washington, D.C. as merely the loudspeaker to which New York speaks. It's after all the golden rule, isn't it? He who has the gold rules. Well, the gold is here. I'm coming to walk from the heliport would take you to the Federal Reserve Bank from New York, and when you got there, you would be standing on top of 1/3 of the world's gold. Nines, bells, and tons of this stuff. The gold is here. Wall Street is here. You're about to see it with your own eyes. United Nations, same. Presidents come all the time, and when they do, this is where they land. And when that happens, nothing else does. We would not be here. Well, not today anyway. There's a helicopter landing right now, even as we speak. The little white ferry boat, that's the one that goes back and forth to Governor's Island. Wall Street's coming up, second pier of the left. First the helicopters, then the second pier will be the Wall Street pier. Should have a little blue and white ferry boat out in front. Getting into rush hour, and that's how some of the Wall Street people get home to take ferry boats out. Watch for the one canyon, the only canyon will have a church steeple at the top. Church is going to be Trinity Church, featured in the film National Treasure, Nicolas Cage. Who became president of Trinity Church? Well, so it's Wall Street. You watch it, you'll see it. You blink and you'll miss it. Buried in the graveyard at the top of Wall Street, a man responsible for most of this, a patron saint of capitalism and social order, the man on your $10 bill, and currently the toast of Broadway. Who knew? Howling Vander Hamilton. If Hamilton were around today, even he couldn't get a ticket to the show. If he could, well, he couldn't afford it. But then, once you get past the buildings, those buildings with all the windows and them facing us, identical twins, you're back in the middle of US today, because if you're looking to your left, here comes Turtle Bay, a very exclusive, posh neighborhood, older red brick buildings. If you lived over the years,
right up in the middle,
further all the neighborhoods. Well, there's one on your right, Dumbo, down on the Manhattan Bridge overpass. Perhaps even more famous, left side, the end of the second bridge, was Lower East Side, Manhattan. Sidewalks of New York, east side, west side, all around the town. The top sang Ring Around Rosie. The London Bridge was falling down. Those were the sidewalks of New York. 1910, thanks to Ellis Island, the sidewalks of New York on the Lower East Side, and more people per square inch than any place else on the planet, not India nor China, could match it. Not before, not since. If all of New York City had that same density in 1910, the population of the city that year would have been an astounding 78 million. Which is 10 times what it is today. Imagine that. New York City, 10 times more crowded than it is today. There's Jane's Carousel. In this country, carousels always go counterclockwise. Why so? It's tradition, but most of us are right-handed. So you're supposed to hold on with your left hand and then reach out with your right hand to grab the brass ring. And since most carousels, this company was built by the same company, Philadelphia Tobacco Company, which built this one, to go counterclockwise. More neighborhoods. Here's one coming up on the right as we come under the Manhattan Bridge. This neighborhood is Vinegar Hill. where they used to make the Brillo pads for scouring pots and pans. They don't do that anymore. Vinegar Hill also was the boyhood home of old Scarface himself, Al Capone. Yeah, I know, you think Capone, you think Chicago, you're untouchable. Well, maybe so. But he got to start here. As a matter of fact, he got that famous scar here, then off to Chicago to fame and misfortune. Next train that goes over our heads, above our heads here, a subway, going from left to right, is on its way to Coney Island. Out to the ocean to the boardwalk. Just a guess, but some of these helicopters taking off right about now, where are they going? Pretty good guess. They're taking the rich and famous out to their summer weekend retreats out in the Hamptons. One seat in one of those helicopters is a 25-minute flight will set you back $1,200. So they can afford it. Now, if you walk the Brooklyn Bridge, and you should, you don't walk the whole thing up in heaven's sake, you don't walk the entire length of the bridge. If you do that, everyone's going to know you're from out of town. Just walking up to get yourself into Brooklyn. There's a staircase, takes you right down on the Brooklyn waterfront. What are you going to find there? Oh, Pizza Paul is quite famous. Grupo goes to pizza. Lobster shacks. Ice cream stands. Chocolate factories. Fancy waterfront cafes. And, surprise, surprise, a genuine, old-fashioned merry-go-round, a carousel. Now, the neighborhood between these first two bridges has a nickname. Technically, it's down under the Manhattan Bridge overpass, so we call it Dumbo. Well, what else? And that's where we're going to find the carousel. You walk for it, you'll see it. The carousel is 100 years old, plus 2 months. Most of those years spent in Youngstown, Ohio, part of an amusement park. But when the amusement park was being demolished, with it would have gone the carousel, a piece of Americana, hand carved. The local lady, an artist by the name of Jane Melendez in the Green, arranged to have the carousel brought down here to the Brooklyn waterfront, which is where you're going to find it. And we call it, put what else? Jane's Carousel. It operates every day of the week except Tuesday. We don't go on Tuesday. So if you're coming over to the Brooklyn waterfront today, let's say, bring a small child, then you can ride the carousel and you won't look ridiculous. Neighborhoods are the building block of urban living. Nobody lives in a town of 8 million people. You can't do it. It's not human. There's all the time humans have been wired to live in villages, something bigger. Well, famous in America. So get yourself a couple of Nathan's Red Hots. Oh, go for it. Some cheese fries, why not? Walk up on the boardwalk, trust yourself on the boardwalk at Coney Island. It'll cost you $2.75 each way. Imagine that. Red building approaching on our right is a power plant. Looks like a factory, but they make electricity here. Pretty relaxed today. Temperatures are moderate. Last week when the temperatures were in the 90s, they were sweating that over here. This is a fact of power plant. As long as the Consolidated Edison, the company New Yorkers home, they gave us Chicago. Sounds fair to me. Skyscrapers came to us from Chicago, inspired by grain elevators on the Western Prairie. But Chicago quickly took itself out of the running. In 1892, they imposed tax limitations over their buildings they could afford to. Chicago has a lake on one side of some side. I know, I've seen it. But they can sprawl north, west, south. They've done it. I've seen it. None here. Manhattan Island has to go straight up. Skyscrapers made the most sense here. There's a building form that's not that old, little more than a century, but halfway through that century, half of all the population on this planet made their way to this one little island of Manhattan. Most famous of skyscrapers, well, that is a no-brainer. And the answer hasn't changed in 91 years. It is, well, what else? It is the icon. It is the Empire State Building. Here it comes on your left, you're coming up the bridge, looking left. You can't visit, nothing else looks like the Empire State Building. Probably the most famous building in the world. I wouldn't be surprised with back row if you have a piggy bank in the shape of the Empire State Building. 91 years old. For 41 of those years, all the things humans had ever built. And of course, we did it in a hurry. Well, we do everything in a hurry here. It's rush, rush, rush. Time is money, money is time. You don't waste either one. Everyone is so impatient. My next door neighbor is a stockbroker. Impatient. He buys dead goldfish, so he won't have to wait. Well, we do the skyscrapers the same way. It took 100,000 Egyptian workers 30 years to build the Great Pyramid of Egypt. It took just 3,000 New York construction workers 1 year and 45 days. What did the Empire State Building? They worked around the clock. A steel girder fabricated in the steel mill in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, 100 miles to the west on, let's say Monday. Even that's what by summertime on Monday about now. To make the journey by rail, rather than have to put on Tuesday. Extended straight away to the building site, 34th and 5th Avenue, hoisted into the heavens, waiting at the top of the building in the darkness of that Tuesday morning, well before their breakfast. 4 men, iron workers on a ribbon team, most likely Mohawk Indians down from Canada, a famous skywalker.
That's Dominic Park.
There was one man,
This one is they call Domino Park.
Closest to the man on the next team over would be the catcher. Now here's a fellow that's catcher. Standing on the narrow beam, a tunnel heated air, with nothing below to break his fall, except the avenue. He kept that ribbon in a tin cup, put it in place with a man with an automatic hammer. That would be the gunman. And everything would be the bumper up. A good 17 could pound in 500 in a day. If one member, just one member of the crew did not show up on his shift, nobody went up. They would never go with a substitute. Why, it could be fatal. Well, it's not fatal, but we're about to lose Brooklyn on the right. It's about to be replaced by Queens on the right. All takes place in a little creek sticking up the right side, tiny little Newtown Creek. You have those little maps you brought with you. Look on there, that little sliver that divides Queens and Brooklyn. Not much to look at. Newtown Creek, only 5 miles long, and not much happens there anymore. But in its day, it was the busiest, most polluted commercial waterway in North America. 5 miles in at the end of the creek, about Queens, coming from the right, has the most real estate. To the World's Fairs, which we did twice, 1939 again in 1964. Both times, same spot, Mushy Meadow out in Queens. The last World's Fair left behind Shea Stadium, a long time home of the New York Mets. Well, the Mets are still there, but they have a different field now, City Field right across the street. Actually, the Mets are down in Atlanta playing the Braves today. And for the tennis fans on here, big deal coming up. The end of this month, out in Queens, the U.S. Tennis Open. You're going to be in town. Sorry, then it has to take by. You're going to be in town. How do you get out to see the tennis matches? Well, it makes the most sense, again, to use the subway.
When you see
the East River, so-called,
into the
is about split into 2 channels. We're going to use the one closest to Manhattan, the west channel, left side. What does the splitting? Well, a long, thin island, which will be coming up on our right. Long and thin has many names. Currently, it's Roosevelt Island, dedicated to Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt. There's a little park at this end in their honor, with statues of the 2 of them. But before this was Roosevelt Island, it was Welfare Island. And what it was a place of quarantine and exclusion. Here we said lunatics, criminals, and people with infectious diseases. Mostly the dreaded smallpox. Well, we don't do that anymore. Happily, that is a thing of the past. And there's only one grim reminder of those very grim days. If you watch for it, when we pass the Roosevelt Park here, the nicely landscaped park, will come the ruins of the old smallpox hospital. Pretty spooky. Hospital built in 1856 to provide humane treatment for people with infectious diseases. Mostly the dreaded smallpox. Well, it might have been humane, but there was very little they could do for you at the old smallpox hospital. You walked in there with smallpox, pretty good chance you were not walking back out again. For many it was a one-way ticket. You end left side, just one flag, that's all you'll see. The blue flag of the United Nations. What about the flags of the member countries? Well, you wouldn't see them on the other side of the building past 4 o'clock. So they fly them on the First Avenue side till 4 o'clock, and then they take them. United Nations, if you enter their grounds, which you can do, you have to go through security, 19 acres that does belong to the U.S. But then, once you get past the buildings, those buildings with all the windows and the facing up, identical twins, you're back in the middle of US today, because if you look into your left, here comes Turtle Bay, a very exclusive, posh neighborhood, older red brick buildings. If you lived over the years,
Right
your
in the middle.
Now, you see, Robert Woodruff was the chairman of the board of Coca-Cola in your state farm. There's the Roosevelt Island to our right, and next comes the Smallpox Hospital, what's left of it. The next bridge coming up on my count is number 4, and this one has 3 names. Imagine that. Right side, it's the Queensboro Bridge. Left side, it's the 59th Street Bridge. So what's the third name? Well, in recent years, the city has decided we should call this the Ed Koch Bridge. The late Ed Koch, one of our mayors. Well, they could decide what they like, but I can tell you with great assurance, no New Yorker is ever going to call this the Ed Koch Bridge. If Ed were alive, he wouldn't do it. If you're in Queens on the right, it's the Queensboro. Manhattan left side, it's the 59th Street Bridge. Made briefly famous in 1966 by Simon and Garfunkel with their 59th Street Bridge song, Feeling Groovy, that's the bridge. Now the bridge does a curious thing. Nicely connects Queens and Manhattan, but no, see for yourselves, it does not do a thing for Roosevelt Island. It goes right by the top and it doesn't stop. But now wait a minute, hold on there. Over 10,000 people live on Roosevelt Island, and if they work, and many do, they work in Manhattan, so they're supposed to. How are they supposed to get back and forth? They can ride the Roosevelt Island aerial tram on a Sky car. Now, no promises, keep a sharp lookout up above our heads for one of those bright red cars in transit. It's a 4-minute crossing, they operate in pairs. Who can ride the Sky car? Anybody wants to. You don't have to live out here, but it's not free. It costs what it costs to ride subway. And you get on board, it's quite a view. So on the Manhattan side, you have to go to 59th Street, 2nd Avenue, east side, pay your fare, ride over, pay another fare, and ride back. It is quite a view. If you live in the States, there's a pretty good chance that we have 175 hospitals, of which at last count 26 are teaching hospitals. A whole block of them located along the waterfront. We passed them already. Here comes some more. Here comes the most famous. Up past the yellow crane on the left side, Watford, Rockefeller University. It's the follow-on to the old Rockefeller Institute of Medical Science and Research. They like to boast that here at the Rockefeller University, they have more Nobel Prize winners on staff than any place else on the planet. And we'll take the word for it. Probably more than any other sightseeing cruise you can take. This one has deja vu moments, thanks mostly to TV and movies. Should have had a few already. Gonna get another one coming up on our left. On the left side, coming up is hospital special surgery. Featured big time at the very end of the film. Now, if you're not seeing the movie, we won't ruin the ending for you. Just take note of the building. Here it comes. Watch for it. I only say that if Matt Damon were to surface one of this vessel this very instant, I would not be a bit surprised at the hospital for special surgery. Among its most popular items currently, Tommy John surgery for putting make-believe tissues back up on the pitching mound. But day in and day out, number one on the menu, hip replacements. Come here to the hospital for special surgery to get your hip replaced, whether you need it or not. Hospital for Special Surgery is blocking our view, but right behind it is a very famous cancer hospital, Sloan Kettering, world famous. Who were Sloan, who were Kettering? Well, Albert P. Sloan was head of General Motors. His very good friend, an Ohio farm boy by the name of Charles Kettering. Name maybe doesn't ring a bell. Charles Kettering, tinkering around in his garage, invented something that would change the way Americans live their lives, people around the world. He invented the electric self-starter. He didn't have to crank the car anymore. He also came up with Freon. Very rich man, as you can imagine. But his wife, Olive, was diagnosed with cancer, and Charles Kettering spent the rest of his life going to have the reception this afternoon and would have been hedged their bets against any sort of king women. Nobody ever liked him there as much as Fiorello LaGuardia. Barely 5 foot tall and pure energy. He went forward to the job. The only mayor so far to have spawned a Broadway show. 1959, Kurt goes off on Broadway on a hit musical, Fiorello. Like a star and a journeyman actor by the name of Tom Bosley. Now we knew Tom better as Ricky Cunningham's dad at Happy Days. But he got a start on Broadway as Fiorello LaGuardia, the Little Flower. And while we're waiting for the house to show up on the left side, wave at the people waving at us. Let's not be rude, not getting more phone calls. I don't see why the people in Circle Line can't wave back. Wave back. I guess the people up here don't have cable television. Who was this guy? Well, no way should be the grow up here. You never heard the name before today. But for 44 years, Moses was the most powerful man in the most powerful state, and he never got elected to anything. How did he do it? A bunch of jobs. LaGuardia starts it. Here's the house coming up to your left. Don't miss it. LaGuardia starts it. In the 1930s, he appoints a young, idealistic social reformer, eager beaver, by the name of Bob Moses as Parks Commissioner. Well, big deal. Nobody else wanted the job. Where was the power being Parks Commissioner? Moses could smell power. Today, 1/4 of this city is parkland. That's power. When he took over, there were 115 playgrounds in this town. When he was forced out, over 700. He never gave up the job, he just added to it. Parks Commissioner, Housing Commissioner, Highway Commissioner, and a term were risen from all sorts. End of the World's Fair, which one? It doesn't matter, both of them. So forth and so on, and yada, yada, yada. Now you say, well, we're all, you can say that's all well and good, but we're from out of town. What's this all Moses got to do with us? A great deal if you live in the States. In this country, there are 43,000 miles of interstate highways. Every single mile, no exception. I-10 to New Orleans. And Ryan around Chicago, I-5, C-Tap, built by an acolyte, the disciple of Robert Moses. Years after the Second World War, they found it at a crossroads. Side between mass transit, which Moses hated, or hated mass transit, or highways, the automobile, which he loved. It was Moses more than anyone else who would make the motor car king in America. Which is pretty funny when you stop to consider that Robert Moses, like 70% of his Manhattan neighbors, he could drive. He did in 1954, built by, who else? Robert Moses. Update your maps. When we get to the Blue Bridge, the left side will be the Manhattan side, east side, 106th Street, 106. Right side, an island. This is Ward's Island, come up to the right. The big building on Ward's Island, the stage, color building, the old Manhattan Scientific Institute. Behind it, training grounds for New York City's fire department. In round numbers, we have 12,000 New York City where the polo grounds were. So all you needed was this bridge to walk back and forth. The next time those two teams met in the World Series, you needed a 707. Because by then the Giants had fled to San Francisco, where they are today, the San Francisco Giants. You come up the bridge, if you look to your left, there's a playground, pretty well covered by the trees right now. Very famous playground in its own right, Holcomb Rucker. But it's on the spot that was occupied from 1917 until 1958 by the old polo grounds, home of the New York Giants. But as Mother Nature left the river behind, it could never quite find its way back into the Hudson. Just wandered around up into the Bronx, and notice your shipping research could not have done these circles. Almost, but not quite. Well, you can now, and it is now, because in 1895, the Army Corps of Engineers dug the Harlem River Ship Canal. That's what we're turning left into. When they did that, all sorts of good things became possible, starting with the off in Lower Manhattan's Broadway, will come to an end 361 miles later on Montreal, in Montreal. The old Mohegan Trail, here we simply call it Broadway and here it leaves town. The altars. Now those Albany territory. Look to your left, you look right. Houses were bringing down the curtain of America's favorite boat ride. Come out of this claustrophobic harbor river into the vast expanse of the gorgeous scenery of the lower Hudson Valley. Those are the Palisades set ahead, sheer cliffs, they average 450 feet above the water's edge. Keep in mind, you're only looking at 2/3 of the Palisades, whereas the other third underwater. We are now back in the North or Hudson River age.